I'm not giving Jackson another $5, so I'm going to turn it off this time. Everybody here knows how I feel. CDC came out with its ruling. The science is behind it. I'm not going to preach vaccination or anything like that. Where we've hit that 71% that they say that we're supposed to hit for our community, for our communities. And I just, at this point in time, you want to get a battle on your hands, I guess you tell me I have to wear a mask starting Monday, and you're going to find the grumpy old farmer is going to be a handful. I'm over it. I've done it. I've been a good student. I've been a good participant. I haven't argued. I've smiled when I walked up and down the halls. I've even raced back out to my car to get a mask when I forgot the darn thing. I've done the things I was supposed to do. And this is the people's building. And, this is a public space, and everywhere else we go, there may be some businesses that still restrict them, but I know that there won't be many. I mean, I know an awful lot of them in town, and I even run some. And everybody that I talk to, even our town office today, is looking forward to Monday morning when all their employees walk in without masks on. So I will not support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Timberlake. I have Senator Pouliot, Representative Dillingham, and then Senator Daughtry.
So basically, like, with all due respect to my good friend, Senator Timberlake, like, it really doesn't matter what the Republicans on Legislative Council think about this. We're in the minority. Like, newsflash, we've been getting steamrolled this whole session. So, I mean, I think all of us really feel that, the right thing to do is to just follow the guidance, but ultimately it's not up to us. So, hopefully, I mean, this is supposedly about science, but somehow May 24th, everything's better. I don't understand that, but the reality is that I'm in quarantine right now. You know what I mean? Because of exposure to COVID. We have to make we have to make decisions in life to do things to keep other people safe and so forth. But if the CDC guideline is that come, May 24th, we don't need to wear masks anymore, then I don't understand why we're going to impose that upon ourselves in the state legislature. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sure if there are folks on this council that feel the need to put that forward, there's going to be some kind of compelling reason in your mind based on your worldview that needs to happen. To me, it just doesn't really seem to make sense when the majority of every place else, except for schools and daycare facilities, don't have this requirement. So I mean, I'm not supporting it, but really doesn't matter what, us Republicans really, want to do anyway, it seems like. So that's where it's at.
Representative Dillingham. Or I guess Senator Daughtry, did you take yourself out of queue? Representative.
I'm having slight internet.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to jump in and out. I'll be right back.
Okay. Representative Dillingham.
So I'm along the same lines with Senator Timberlake, that I don't believe that we need to continue with the masks anymore. I think that you make them optional for anybody that feels that if that's what they're comfortable doing, then certainly, as with anything else, they should be able to wear the mask if that's what they need to do. Senator Daughtry referred to, there are occasions where some businesses are still wearing masks. The legislature is not like a regular business. You have individuals that have been elected to represent their districts in that building. And if you are going to tell an elected representative that somehow this legislative council has ruling over themselves to tell them they have to wear a mask or they're going to be withheld from the building, then I think we're going to have a lawsuit on our hands. And I'm not going to be party to it as far as representing legislative council. I think that will fall squarely then on those folks that feel that they need to impose that. If the CDC at the federal level is saying that individuals don't have to wear a mask. The governor just issued a new executive order last evening saying individuals don't have to wear a mask whether they are vaccinated or not. Then I think that we should follow suit, and it'll be a very hard, difficult argument to make that we're going to still require people to wear a mask in the building, where if you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you don't want to wear one, you shouldn't have to wear one. So I hope that this isn't partisan. I hope this isn't going to be a party line vote on this particular issue. I hope that we can continue to treat this and come to agreement on just as we have on all these other aspects. But if it does go to a vote, I will be against, and I'm fairly certain if we try to keep legislators from entering their building and try because they refuse to wear a mask, then we would be facing a lawsuit.
Senator Daughtry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm in favor of us still requiring masks. I mean, if you look at DC, they're still requiring it in federal courts. They're requiring it in the US Capitol. Also, if you look at the federal CDC guidance, they are lifting it. They are relaxing it. And that's in part because we are having good steps. We're seeing things happening. People are getting vaccinated. Our rates are going up. I do want to say, I think it was Senator Timberlake who was saying that we're at a 70% rate. I think we're only at 58% of those who are currently eligible in the state have had their first dose. So we haven't actually hit that herd immunity yet at all. But if you look at the US CDC federal guidance, you're still required to wear a face mask on public transportation, if you're flying, if you're on rails, and in our courts and in DC. So I think it's incumbent on us to at least be, echoing that. But the other thing we need to remember is that this is the people's house, and that means it's open to folks of all ages. And if you look at the governor's guidance, you're still required to have the covering in schools and childcare, because if you're younger than 12, you can't get vaccinated. So we need to protect those members of our democracy as well. And within our staffs and our makeup of our legislature, we still have people who are either immunocompromised or have a loved one who's immunocompromised who can't get vaccinated. And this is something that we can do to make sure that we're protecting all of us for the common good while, doing the people's business and getting us back there. But I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do everything we can to protect, not only each other, but anyone coming into the building.
Senator Vitelli, Representative Stekis, and then Representative Dillingham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would echo what my colleague, Senator Daughtry, just said. I think, it's something that we can do to protect those who can't protect themselves for whatever reasons from this virus. And I would also just point out again that this is not a forever thing. I know it's felt like that sometimes that we've been wearing these masks, but we're talking about another 3 weeks while we're all back in the building to finish our work. And it just seems to me that, to continue doing everything we can, which includes wearing a face covering, a mask, to protect those who can't protect themselves from this virus is something that we all can do. And I appreciate everybody's conversation to this point, and I, regret that we may be getting to a fork in the road, so to speak. But I also agree that having everybody wear masks is just one way of sort of putting us all in the same place and saying we're all together and making sure that all of us are going to stay safe for these next 3 weeks.
Representative Stekis.
So to quote the first woman governor of the state of Maine in her first State of the State address, Maine is not Washington. I think it's important for us to be consistent. If we're going to be consistent with our concern about public safety and following the CDC guidelines, we probably ought to consider following the CDC guidelines where healthy people wearing masks is unhealthy. In the COVID situation, apparently COVID took precedence because it was more dangerous to not wear a mask when it came to that situation than the health concerns when it comes to healthy people wearing masks. So I think we need to be consistent with people's health. And we also have people that have other physical or mental disabilities, that wearing a mask, and this has been a struggle, we've heard from all of them throughout this situation last year and a half. I've heard from many, that wearing a mask either, triggers claustrophobia or some of these other physical or mental disabilities. So we have to consider those as well. If they're obviously the CDC, the chief executive feel that we're past that point where masks are necessary, why are we going to impose these other health risks by continuing to require them? Just makes no sense to me.
Representative Dillingham, then Senator Daughtry.
Thank you. I think it's a bit much to compare us to DC and the Capitol building in Augusta to the Capitol building in DC or to federal courts. Again, I think that if the concern is trying to protect others, I got vaccinated to do that. So I played my part. I'm fully vaccinated, and I'm being told that I don't have to wear a mask. So if somebody is concerned about their health, then they should be the ones that have the option to wear the mask instead of forcing me, who went through and got vaccinated, to wear a mask. It doesn't make any sense if the CDC is telling me, as a fully vaccinated person, I don't have to wear a mask. Doesn't make any sense to tell me as an elected official for my district that I can't go into that building and do my job unless I put a mask on. But I can go everywhere else without a mask. I can go down to any of my local stores and interact with any of my constituents, and that's not going to be an issue. I think I take a little bit of offense at the implication that or the members implying that I somehow, because I don't want to wear a mask, I'm somehow now I don't care about the health of others around me. That couldn't be the furthest from that. It could not be a statement made any further from the truth than that. I think we probably need to remove that sort of rhetoric from this conversation and talk around the science of, you have the governor and Dr. Shaw following the federal CDC saying that we don't need to wear masks. And now they started with, if you were vaccinated, now they've removed it for all. There must be some science behind it that they've making that statement. I think we should follow suit every time that we have brought this conversation up around anything, around members trying to be in their committees. We were always told by presiding officers we're following the science. I think we should now continue to follow the science. I think it sets a very bad example to pick and choose the kind of science that we want to follow instead of just being consistent across the board.
Senator Daughtry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I apologize, my internet keeps cutting in and out. So I think definitely going to make another chime for why we need to approve broadband in Maine again. But joking aside, I want to add, it's not just DC. Our state courts are requiring masks when you're going into the courtroom as well, because they are concerned about this transition. And if you think of everything as a ramp, it's my good colleague, Senator Vitelli, was saying, this isn't permanent. This is just getting us through the next few weeks while we're going through this process. And, the science is there. We're so close. There is literally light at the tunnel. And this is just a measure to make sure that we, get through this with all of us safe and sound. And you're absolutely right, Representative Dillingham. The best thing we can do is all get vaccinated. And one of the things that epidemiologists are really saying on the mask guidance is that you really only should be taking them off if you're fully vaccinated. So, unless we want to go down sort of the road of checking to see what everyone's vaccination status is, which I know is something I don't think any of us want to take on, I think masks are a way to just get us through the end of session and make sure that we get out of here safe, get through the summer and come back ready to get back to work in the fall with a much better new normal because of the steps we're discussing now.
Senator Pouliot and Senator Timberlake.
Sure. Yeah. Was there anybody on this that didn't already have their mind made up before we started the discussion? Because I did, and I think probably everybody else did. So I'd be ready for a vote now.
Senator Timberlake.
Thank you. I'm just, I was reading the governor's executive order yesterday, and it talks about whereas Maine's vaccination has risen and the percentage of adults who have received the doses of Pfizer, that we had single doses of Biden's target of 70% by July 4th, which limits thin, and that's why she's living it, because we're reaching that. I think that Representative Dillingham probably is going to do a better job than I do, but I went out and got vaccinated. I did my part. I joined an article in the Portland Press Herald and the Lewiston Daily Sun and asked the peoples in my district to do it. To go out and think that I want to make everybody infected because I don't want people to wear masks or whatever. I think it's a personal decision. This is America we live in, and Americans make decisions. And I don't work for President Jackson. I don't work for Speaker Fecto. I don't work for Representative Dillingham, and I don't work for Senator Pouliot. The people in my district elected me, and I'm a self-employed person that's going in and out of this building. And this is the people's building. The CDC guidelines have been met. I heard President Jackson tell me for the last year that, you know, Senator, we got to follow CDC guidelines. Well, we followed them, and I've been a good participant. I've obeyed the rules. I obeyed the rules. I drove all the way to Portland twice to get vaccinated, so I could obey the rules. And now we're getting at this point that we should be going back to work and rewarding the people who done the job. And you know what? People know that what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And I have more faith in people than I guess some other people do. And I let people make that decision. We let people drink. We let people smoke cigarettes in their house with their kids around. We let them do all sorts of things that are bad for people. Things that probably I wouldn't approve of. But I don't get to choose that. We put a marijuana store on every damn corner between here and Turner, Maine. And then we're worried about masking, but we're going to give gummy bears and joints to about every kid in the state of Maine, even though, yeah, they're supposed to be 21, but it's not happening. And here we are arguing over this. This is about rights. This is about my rights. I followed the rules. The CDC guidelines have come out. I'm done, guys. We need to come together, let people make their choices. Any one of you in here that wants to continue to wear your mask, I'll encourage you. And if I don't feel good one day and I'm in the State House, I'll probably put my mask on to be courteous. But other than that, I'm just telling you, get ready for the most. If you think the session has been bad so far, wait till you try to tell all the legislatures in the state of Maine, all the legislators in the state of Maine, that they're going to wear masks. We've all been dealing with some already. It's not going to get better. Folks, we're adults. It's time we move on. You know, even Dr. Shaw says he's not even going to be wearing a mask anymore. And that's public. Okay? It's time to move on. I know you don't like it. I didn't like wearing it. You've only got to put up with it for 3 weeks of me not wearing it. I had to put up with it for a year. So I'm going to stop now because I'm very passionate on this. I ask you to please join me in this and we work together. I hope that what Senator Pouliot said in the beginning of this thing is not true. That the vote's going to be 6-4 and it's going to be, but I don't think it's going to be 6-4 because I don't think that's going to end it. I think the fight will just begun then. And I don't think that's where we should be. I think we're adults. We're America. Let's move on. I'm done.
Point of clarity, don't allow smoking or smoking of joints in either chamber, just as a matter of clarity. Representative Dillingham.
So I'm probably along the same lines of Senator Pouliot, that if everyone has their mind made up, we should just go ahead and vote. But I think my question to you, Mr. Speaker, is what are you going to do when members of my caucus and possibly myself enter that building and we're not wearing a mask? Is there going to be a vote of 2/3 of the body to expel me? Are you going to have me escorted as an elected official out of the building?
Well,
I
I
think
just
that
wanted-
if we're going to, I think if we're going to continue this when we have federal and now state guidelines saying that it doesn't need to happen, that the presiding officers need to have some avenue of what's going to happen, and people should know what to expect when they are going to say they're not going to listen to a ruling of 6 people of the legislature from a legislative council, because as Senator Timberlake said, they don't work for us. So I think that that's a question that is valid and needs to be answered.
Representative Stekes.
And I had some of the same sentiments. I would maybe throughout this Ledge Council meeting, maybe we'll put in the rules into place as far as the penalties that I will be facing next week when I walk in that building, regardless of what this group decides. Myself, and I would guess a majority of my caucus are going to choose to listen to the doctors and the scientists and not a handful of politicians. We're going to follow the science, as we've been pushed to follow the science all along. So I would just like to know what I should expect. Should I expect my wife to put enough money in the checking account so that she can bail me out of jail? Or should we have extra security on hand next week so that we can be escorted out of the building? I would just like to know what should be expected.
Senator Pouliot.
Well, this escalated quickly. Guys, I don't understand why this is such a big deal. I mean, President Biden signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act today, surrounded by 10 other people. No one's wearing a mask. Just doesn't really seem that we should create this kind of friction for something that doesn't really even, it's not going to make a difference. I mean, I think that there can be some kind of rationale. Senator Daughtry shared some, about how this is going to help people for the next 3 weeks. I mean, there's kids that go into, the same kids that are in the school system are going into the stores and so forth, and they're not needing to wear masks there. And so at some point you have to ask yourself, like, why are we putting ourselves through these gyrations that only further divide us? When I see videos online of people saying, I'm not wearing my mask, but I got it in my hand so that people won't think that I'm a Republican. I mean, this issue has divided our country, and it's time for it to stop. And I'm not going to vote in favor of further division.
Just make a couple of points. I mean, first and foremost, I want to be very clear. My mind was not made up on this issue at all. In fact, we had a conversation prior to the meeting, and I was rather uncertain as to where I was going to be headed on this. So a lot of assumptions were made when only 2 Democratic members had spoken. So and then it escalated pretty quickly from there. So I want to be clear that there was an assumption made.
Well, prove me wrong, Speaker Fecto. Prove me wrong.
Senator Pouliot, I have the floor at the moment. I'd appreciate not being interrupted. What I would like to also note is the fact that while I've heard a lot about what the CDC guidelines say, they acknowledged, the director of the US CDC acknowledged this week that there are 3 significant caveats to their policy. One is it's known to be safest to remove masks among other fully vaccinated people or with unvaccinated people who are currently wearing masks. That is what the US CDC is speaking to. So if we want to talk about the science, I think what we're trying to contemplate here is how do we thread the needle on what the current science is suggesting. I think the current science is saying if people are vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks. I think President Biden has been inviting people to the Oval Office who've proven themselves vaccinated. I think he said I think he said as much in a tweet this week. I think the challenge here is, do we want to go down a road of having to confirm whether or not members are vaccinated? I'm not particularly interested in doing that. I don't think that's necessarily the best path forward here. The second thing is the CDC speaks to crowded spaces. I think the House chamber is rather crowded when you have 151 of us bumping elbows. That is, for me, the larger concern here is when we're in that building, we're in that chamber for 5, 6, 7 hours on end, and we're in a crowded space. That is my concern. People going in a grocery store. I don't know anyone that spends 7 hours in a grocery store. Maybe they do, but I don't know many people who do. And I don't know many people who are spending 7 hours in a grocery store within 2 feet, 1 foot of 151 other people. That's my concern. We're in a different situation than the general public. And so my suggestion would be that we are wearing masks in the chambers and in any crowded space in the State House. That's the bottom line for me. Senator Timberlake.
You obviously never went shopping with my wife.
Fair.
And I think we've gone on long enough. I think I'd like to make a motion to not mandate masks, but of course, people can feel free to wear them if they want. And that would be the motion that I would move forward. We've discussed all the reasons why.
There's been a motion. Is there a second? Second by Representative Stekis. Any further discussion on the pending motion? Representative Dillingham.
Thank you. I don't want this to come out in any way disrespectful to you, Mr. Speaker. I think that you know that I respect you, but I don't need you to be concerned for my health. If I am sitting in the chamber and I choose not to wear a mask, knowing that I will be sitting beside Representative Stekis and Representative Terrio, and I have Representative Millet behind me, I should be free to make that choice, because it has been shown that I can make that choice because I am fully vaccinated. If I choose to make it the choice of not wearing a mask, knowing that other individuals around me may not be fully vaccinated, that's my choice to make about my health. And now we're turning back to the building, we are divided except for our back row by party. I don't know if that's really as large of a concern as maybe it needs to be. I think that we should be free to make that choice on our own. Certainly now where we have the guidance, the federal guidance, and we have the state guidance. I've often been told throughout this when I've questioned the science that I'm not a scientist and you don't understand everything that goes on behind scenes. I've fully accepted and I've always readily accepted that. So to those quoting other scientists, which I tried doing all this past year and was told, well, you're not a scientist, you really don't understand. I would guess those same words would apply. I think that we should go by the guidance that's issued. I don't mean any disrespect. I hope that you know that and you don't take any offense. And I'm still concerned that my question and Representative Stekis' question has not been answered. What's going to be the penalty? What's going to happen? What do my members need to expect? Because I fairly expect that, yes, duly elected officials that have been told they don't need to wear a mask are going to want to enter that building.
Yeah, and Representative Villingham, I hear what you're saying, but I think my concern is we're going to have not just members in this building. I mean, we have members of staff, and we're going to have the public in this building. And I think we've all been in this building with a lot of folks in the hallways, and and we've all been in the chamber. It is not the most spacious of places, and I don't know who on staff has been vaccinated and who hasn't. And I don't think we want to go through the motions of verifying vaccination status. I think I feel like, even though we're not having that conversation, I feel like that would probably be a great deal more controversial than asking us to keep in place a mask policy for the remainder of session. And frankly, while it may be the case that I shouldn't feel like it's my obligation to look out for the health of all members and so forth, I would be very regretful that if a decision I made here at Legislative Council led to someone getting very ill, and I could have made a decision otherwise, I don't want to be in a position where I'm regretting the fact that we didn't put the best measures in place for the next 4 weeks to keep everyone safe, both members, the staff, and the public. This building is just different given how many people will likely be in and out of here. Representative Stekis.
I think there were a couple ahead of me.
I'll go Senator Vitelli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Stekis. It's not my health I'm concerned about in terms of wearing a mask. I've been fully vaccinated for months now. It's the health of our staff. It's the health of the public who may or may not be vaccinated, who may not be able to be vaccinated. And my wearing a mask, even though I am vaccinated, helps protect them from my spreading the disease further or anybody else around me. So I'm going to be voting against this measure. Thank you.
Senator Pouliot.
Speaker Fecto, one of the things that you were talking about was having the mask on in a more confined area. Would you be okay with members not wearing a mask, out in the rotunda or out on the balcony, perhaps overlooking Capitol Park, outside in fresh air? Just thinking, I know there are some members that have just real challenge wearing a mask all day. And, that's part of the reason why there's apprehension about this. And I'm just wondering if you'd be open to some form of, I can see where this is going, but I'm just wondering if there'd be some openness to doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I was trying to suggest is I think there's a bit of middle ground here. Like if we want to talk about the balcony, I think we already took a straw poll or got a sense of the room on legislative spaces. I mean, we left discretion to the folks leading those offices. So, I mean, if your office were to decide that your spaces could have people without masks, I mean, I think that's what I was trying to get at, as providing a little bit more flexibility. But as far as interacting with folks in the hallway, with the public around, or being in a confined place like the chamber or a retiring room with other members, I think that's where the problem. That's where I would be hesitant. But I think having the policy provide a little bit more flexibility in spaces where there's control by the partisan office or outside, like on a balcony, that's I would be open to the discussion on that. President Jackson.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm probably going to say something a little bit different, but Senator Pouliot's suggestion about the balcony and stuff like that, I actually kind of like that. And certain, I've stayed quiet through this. I mean, obviously, oftentimes, whenever I speak in these meetings, it's in plain things, and certainly don't want to do that. You know, we had session yesterday. Obviously, I wasn't in the House. Senate, I thought went, very well. And obviously, some people didn't get what they wanted. There were some times I didn't get what I wanted, but overall, we were pretty cordial. I want to end session. I mean, I want to get through what we got left. We're getting extremely close. The idea that all the science, I think the science, I'm getting told is still in crowded places. It's preferred to wear masks. This is a very crowded place, in the House especially. So, I don't know, like you said, if there is a middle ground, what Senator Pouliot suggested. More than happy to explore that. But at this point, I'm going to stay with, I said it all along, I meant it. It's not just the legislators in the building. Now we're going to allow the public in. It's suggested earlier on about people feeling safe to come back in. I think they'll definitely feel safe if everyone is wearing a mask. Also, the staff that's in the building, nonpartisan. There's a number of them that either can't take the vaccine at this time, don't feel that they're sure that they can take the vaccine, and then there's a whole bunch of people that I've talked to that are concerned about working here and then going back to their children, and I have to respect that. So again, we just did it yesterday. I'm speaking all the time from the rostrum. I don't enjoy wearing my mask, but I'm more than willing to do it. I'm more than willing to do it for a couple more weeks. It's not trying to do anything to any one of you or anyone that's in this building, although we've had some real battles about this. I understand that, but I'm just at that point where, because the CDC says, again, crowded places, and I have a whole bunch of people that have talked to me about it, I'm going to stay with opening up the building. I'm excited to get back in the building, excited to see people, but I'm going to vote to make sure that people wear masks, and I think we can get through that for a couple more weeks.
Representative Stekes.
Mr. Speaker. So, I guess the discussion about the close proximity and this building is different than most and all those sorts of things. I'd just like to remind everybody that for months now and yesterday, members of the House and the Senate sat in that building with masks on and everything else. When break time came, we all went to restaurants. We stood in line, we sat around a table just as close as we do in the House, having dinner without masks on, having extended conversations for an hour, 2 hours at a time. And at the exact same time, we had the public coming in around us. So, the idea that the public's going to be there, that somehow we're in close proximity and those sorts of things, I'm sorry, just doesn't pass the smell test. The other thing to consider too, from a contractor's point of view, the HVAC system that we have in that building is substantially better than most all buildings that you're going to go into. And that's a big deal. And then the other thing to consider too is the CDC, if we're going to follow the science and listen to doctors and scientists, is the CDC said that masks also do offer protection to the person who wears them. So if people have a concern about being safe or their health, they are more than able to put a mask on themselves among the rest of us. So, considering all those facts, I just don't understand how we cannot follow the science and the CDC as we've been told for, a year and a half now.
Senator Timberlake.
Thank you. I think the one question I ask of Mr. Speaker, of you and the president is, what are the penalties when the members refuse to wear it? Because I'm gonna need to know that, because it's going to be effective, and it seems to be the elephant in the room that we're running away from, because we're going to have to deal with that. And so I need to know what they are.
The policy currently speaks to, at the beginning of the policy, it speaks to what it says: if an individual in a legislative space is not in compliance with this policy, legislative staff is expected to leave the legislative space. Capitol Police are responsible for assisting with the enforcement of Legislative Council's COVID-19 prevention policy. So that's, the policy spells out what happens when someone is not in compliance with the policy.
So I would just, if I was you, I would plan on having, it's probably not going to be a pleasant day.
Senator Daughtry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to weigh in for some of the folks who have reached out to me who I know are staff, and sort of echo, we heard the comments, from Representative Stetkis that, we're all coming together. We're concerned about this in the legislature, but people are going out, they're having dinner, they're going to X, Y, and Z. We do have members of our legislative family who aren't. And when they come to work to do their job, which, is their passion and their livelihood, they aren't doing those things because of their immunocompromised situation. So it's, trying to protect the folks that help us keep the legislative ship on the right direction. And for them, looking at what the next steps are for us in our conversation, for those of us who are, fortunate to be in a place where we're either vaccinated or feeling safe enough and aren't concerned about our health every single day, it's not everyone's in the same boat. And I think Representative Dillingham, said this very well of, it's everyone's safety and everyone's comfort level. And we just have to remind ourselves when we're having this conversation that we do have folks in the building where, either they can't get vaccinated because they're immunocompromised, they're going through cancer treatment. There's a variety of different things that could be putting them at risk. And we have to remember, the light's at the end of the tunnel, but if you just look at, the US CDC, we did have 9 people die in Maine today from this. And look at the numbers. This is something, we're lucky. We've been doing really careful steps, leading the way as we've done different things on really having a proactive and excellent response to this pandemic. But, this is not permanent. It's just a few weeks to get us through. And, I do agree with what Senator Pouliot was saying, when you're outside, when you're on the balcony, be able to, not have the guidelines there. But, when we're in the more crowded public situations, like if you're on public transit, we all know how tight the chamber can get. It can sometimes feel like we're all being shoved into the tin can of an aircraft. I think we need to use the common sense and have face masks in that situation. So I will be, not supporting this measure and trying to make sure that we keep things safe for everyone for the next couple of weeks.
Representative Dillingham.
Thank you very much. Keep saying it. I'll say it again. For those individuals that feel that they need to wear a mask, they can wear a mask. We've already agreed that for the nonpartisan offices and their directors to be able to set whatever working schedules and environments need to be set for individuals in their office. So if there is somebody who's still, even with the option to wear a mask, doesn't feel safe to perform their job duties within the building, that's a discussion they should be having with their director, and knowing and working with the vast majority of the directors that we have in place. I'm sure that every single one of them would take that into consideration and make arrangements and accommodations for folks that feel that way. As far as referring to staff and those that have reached out and are concerned, at the same time, there is staff that has reached out on the opposite side and that are concerned that they don't want to have to wear their mask anymore, that they're frustrated constantly wear their mask, and they're choosing between a job or quitting because they have to wear a mask. And they choose to wear it because that's what the guidance was. And they were very excited when they found out guidance came out and they were no longer going to have to wear a mask. And now to stay employed, if this is what passes, we're choosing some subsets of our staff over others instead of allowing a choice. By choice, those individuals that want to wear a mask, it's already been stated, CDC has said wearing a mask does help you, not just helping somebody else, it helps you. You can choose to wear that mask. I think we probably debated this enough. I did just feel it was important to reiterate that again. I can't see if there's other people that have their hands up, but if there aren't, then I would respectfully move the question.
There's no one else with their hand up, so I'll call the question. Suzanne, would you mind calling the roll?
Certainly. And this is on Senator Timberlake's motion that was seconded by Representative Stetkis to not require the wearing of masks, but to allow people to wear masks if they choose to. Senator Pouliot,
Yes.
Senator Timberlake,
Yes.
Senator Daughtry,
No.
Senator Vitelli,
No.
Representative Stetkis,
Yes.
Representative Dillingham,
Yes.
Representative Talbot Ross,
No.
Representative Dunphy. No. Mr. President,
No.
Mr. Speaker.
No.
Mr. Speaker, it's 4-6, the motion fails.